That's how much we should love the Lord. He's saying there should be a desire for God above everything else in our life. Why does a deer go to water? Number one, you said it, thirsty, satisfaction. The deer is not like the camel. The camel has multiple stomachs and can store up all kinds of water. And when it needs water, the muscles, they start to dehydrate and squeeze just enough water out for the camel to go for long distances, many days without water. They can hold 5 gallons. Some camels are known to hold 10 to 15 gallons of water. But the heart can't do that. When the heart needs satisfaction, it goes to the water. Can I say this to you? You can search this world over. And I promise you this, inside of every human heart, there is a place that is vacant inside your heart that nothing in this world and nobody in this world can fill that emptiness except the Lord. You'll never be satisfied until you know the Lord. You know, Solomon was one of the wisest men that lived. I preached on Solomon the other night. And Solomon tried many things in his life to find satisfaction. He tried luxuries. He had it all, possessions. He tried liquor. He tried all types of things, wisdom and learning, but none of it satisfied. He said it was all vanity and vexation. But when he found the Lord, he found what satisfied him. Now, a lot of things in life I've not been satisfied with. I've bought cars that I'm not satisfied with. I've made deals that I'm not satisfied with. There's been things in my life that I ventured out that looked so good, but I wasn't satisfied when I did that. But I can say this with all honesty. Not one time in my life have I ever looked back and said that I've not been satisfied with the Lord. I have always been satisfied with the Lord. Not one time has He disappointed me, has He let me down. Not one time has He ever failed me, and He'll not fail you either. And if there's something thirsty in your soul, I know who can satisfy that tonight. The Lord can satisfy the longing of your heart. It goes for satisfaction, but then it goes for soothing. As the deer, as the heart panteth. A deer pants like a dog. Do you ever wonder why a dog pants? Dog will run and then it'll pant. Do you know why? The dog's like the deer. They don't have enough sweat glands in their body. You and I have sweat glands, and when we run and we exert energy, then we start to sweat. And the sweat, as it evaporates, it cools us off. And that helps us to remain calm. But the deer doesn't have that. If a predator is chasing it, and it runs at a high speed, and it can run up to 40 miles an hour. The heart can go 40 miles an hour at times if it needs to, but as it exerts that energy, it can't find any calmness because it doesn't have enough sweat glands. And if it gets to the place where it feels like its heart is racing and it can't find any calmness and it can't find a place of comfort, it will get in the water, and the water will cool it down and refresh it and allow it to satisfy itself with soothing as well. Do you know that there is a place that we can get in the Lord, that when we get there, we find soothing for our soul, that nothing else will calm us? We live in a crazy, wild world today. All kinds of things going on. Everywhere you look, it seems like that the devil has gone on a spree of trying to destroy this world and destroy mankind. But I know a place where that we can come when the storm clouds gather, and there is soothing for our soul, and there is a calmness and a peace. Jesus said, my peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, give I unto you. He gave us a peace that the world cannot take away, a peace that surpasses all of our understanding, a peace in the time of sickness, a peace in the time of sorrow, a peace in the time of storm. There is a peace that we have by knowing the Lord. It calms itself. Then it goes to water for safety. When a deer is being pursued, the same deer that lacks sweat glands has a lot of scent lands. It uses its scent to mark its territory. Any of you hunters in here know well, everyone goes hunting, they want the buck. And the bigger the buck, the better. They're looking for the trophy. And I've seen people do all kinds of things to get the scent of the deer, to get close enough to the deer to kill it. Stay with me. It has a strong scent, and its scent marks its territory. A buck has a certain area that it operates in. That's its domain. It will fight with another buck. Every now and then a young buck will come along and try to challenge the older buck. And oftentimes they'll even break off tips of their horns when they get into a battle with one another over territory. The territory of that buck, that's its own domain. It doesn't allow other bucks to control that. That's its domain. And it'll stay in that territory and doesn't like getting out of that territory. But one thing will always cause it to get out of its territory. And that's when it's being chased by a predator. When one of its enemies is chasing it, the problem with that is that scent that is so strong to mark its territory also makes it an easy target for the enemy. The same thing that it's blessed with, the blessing, also allows the enemy to target. Do you know something? I hear this all the time. People come to me and say, well, preacher, I hear people talk about the devil bothering them and the devil doing this and how that they're going through this and going through that. I said, I'm never bothered. Well, you told me a lot. He doesn't bother people that's not doing anything. But when you're doing something and you get blessed, you become a target for the enemy. And the more you do, the more he'll target you. Many years ago, Candy and I, we lived in a house. We had a small lake out in front of the house. And other houses around the lake there. And early one morning I was outside and I watched that buck come down to that water, and I could hear the dogs off in a distance chasing that deer. Well, it was way out in front of the dogs, but it knew the dogs were coming. And as the dogs were drawing in closer to it, you could watch that deer. It would go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, almost like it was afraid to get in the water. Now, the strange thing about it is the hart is an excellent swimmer, but it doesn't like to swim. Because when it swims and it's being chased and it comes out, sometimes it comes out in a territory that's out of its territory, unknown territory, unfamiliar land. If it swims the river or swims a lake or swims a pond, comes out on the other side, sometimes that's not its territory any longer. But when it has no other choice, and I watched as those dogs got closer, finally that deer went in the water, swam to the other side just that quick, over to the other side. Once it got to the other side, it took off. And I watched those dogs. They came down, they followed that scent, and when they got to the water's edge, they went back and forth, just like that buck went back and forth, but they couldn't find it any longer because when it got in the